There you go, you're live.
Awesome. Hey everyone, how you doing? BC Richfield here with my dear friend Bast on behalf of the wonderful HyroTrader. And today we're starting off something that hopefully is going to be a lot of fun, but hopefully also is going to be a really good learning experience for everyone as well, because everybody's heard about funded accounts, right? Everybody knows about prop. You don't need to be a genius to realize that it's a really, really good way to get an access to a much higher amount of capital so that you can make genuine money in the market, money that can, top you up, money that can ultimately replace your career. Now, people aren't going to give you access without about is how I kind of introduce myself. Is it teaches you discipline. What I are going to do is we are going to do our absolute best to walk you through some of the setups that we're looking at. We're going to be taking some live trading. We've both just passed and got our brand new 200k funded accounts. I think actually Bast might have done that a little bit quicker than me, so I think he's maybe a little bit ahead of the curve here. So we're going to just do a little bit of a mix today, show you the setups that we're looking at, and then if some of the opportunities present themselves, we're going to take them. If not, we're going to put everything together for you so you can see the setups, and then we will keep everybody updated in real time with our posts to show you exactly what we're looking at, what trades we've taken, and you get to see the accounts grow in real time. You also get to see the mistakes, you get to see the victories, and you get to live this lesson through two people that have been doing this for, sort of 15, almost 20 years between them. All right. So Bast, what have you got for us today, my friend?
Hello, guys. Hey, man. So, all good here. I'm just watching the markets pushing down on the New York Open. Quite interesting. Normally, this kind of signals, like when the New York Open just dumps, then the market just recovers over the session. So, we might be looking for some kind of long for intraday trades. I see the chats are going nice here. What's up, guys? How are you doing? So, like BC said, we will be trading these 200k funded accounts with you guys. If we see setups, we are going to take them. If not, like always, the best trade sometimes is not to trade. So we are not going to push anything that we are not, that basically is not following our strategy. So in my opinion, I would say like I would go into CoinGlass. Possibly this way we can kind of filter what tokens we might be looking at. That's kind of the way I normally do it with the open interest, with with open interest coins that have like higher open interest. Sorry, those are the ones that I will be kind of screening in into with market cap above. Let's say I can go like 100 million, possibly 500 million market cap and above to try and filter, like I don't like trading these low liquidity coins, to be honest. And I don't know about you, but I like Bitcoin, I like ETH, I like Hype. And if those kind of like Sol, for example, right now, let me check something. Higher open interest right now on 500 million market cap. Let's filter a bit more here. So let's go with 1 billion up to more over here, and the higher coins with higher open interest over here would be WBTM, SHIF. Okay, SHIF is a good option to take into consideration. Pepe. All right. So I would say I would focus today on Shiv and Pepe. Actually, this reminds me when I was in Miami and I saw the same opportunities. Shiv and Pepe, I was trading them on the trading tournament, and I won the tournament with those coins. It was
You had to get that in there, didn't you? You just had to slide that one in there. Yeah. He
yeah.
did. Well, I had this fact checked by everyone because I thought he might have pulled some kind of sneaky trade. I mean, I know what a great trader Bast is, but I mean, to turn up to pretty much your own tournament and win it is, it's a very, very cheeky move, that is Bast. And I saw some of those moves on Pepe. Pepe is a bit of a strange one sometimes, isn't it? Because it can really trade like a meme coin. There's these massive wild expansions and then these quite kind of low liquidity pullbacks. But actually, it's a very, very high liquidity asset, right? So I'm actually going to get this I'm going to get this on my watch list as well. For me, I was looking at Solana. I like hype today. Was thinking about the idea of a little hype long, but I didn't want to take it kind of going into the pre-market open in the US. Actually turned out could have been quite a nice scalp. We saw some nice absorption above range highs. So I'm going to share that with everyone later and show you what I was looking at. But ultimately, it's very, very dangerous to rush into these trades in a very news and fundamentally driven environment like we have at the moment. And anytime we've got a session open in New York, so we have the pre-market now, which is, in the US, and then the equity market open slightly afterwards. And we're now seeing that kind of, we're seeing that action come in, all right, because we've got, roughly now we're coming in, we've had New York open, we've had the market drop. Now things normally start to settle after we've had the equity open, right? The cash market. For people that are like myself that really struggle to adjust to the daylight savings as well, it's always handy to have a time clock up, comparing the different time zones, because we get that shift with the US that catches a lot of people out. But normally, when we were doing this in legacy markets, especially trading equities, the NASDAQ, etc., you want to wait for that initial move, and then normally 15 to 30 minutes, right? One of the toolkits that everybody uses in this space is, or most funds, and that is an opening range breakout. All right, wait for the market to settle, see which side is kind of drawn offside for the liquidity, and then, try and gauge that expansion. So I'm going to cover the setups that I'm looking at in a moment, but I am absolutely going to add Pepe as well, because I think that's a really good shout there from you, Bast. Is there anything else that's kind of caught your eye?
Well, yes, definitely. I mean, we have Shiv and we have Pepe, like the most important meme coins at the moment. I'm just checking right now the higher open interest coins in the past 1 hour, and in the past 24 hours we have got possibly Monero, KAS, and Dot. I would say also KuCoin is kind of the on the top list right now, like KuCoin, Tau, Monero, and CAS. So maybe we can go through them. But these are like the higher open interest coin in the last 24 hours. So we don't necessarily going to get an intraday setup on them, but they might be setups in the future. So just by checking the hourly open interest, we have Shiv and Pepe, like the most important ones. There are also like WBT, which to be honest, I don't know what the hell is that. We have M, which is I don't know what's that either, and we have Ton. But definitely aside from Pepe, I would say we have like Shift. Let's go to let me check Shift pretty quickly to see if there's something interesting here. So all right, we might got here. So for me at least, like the daily trend, since we are intraday trading right now, the daily trend would be pushing higher, into back into this levels around 0.006 sats. On the hourly chart, I would say, let me check something. Okay, so yeah, the hourly chart is not giving me any trade at the moment. I would say I'm just waiting for a rejection of this level. So I would definitely wait for a push lower into around 0.006 as well. And as soon as I got that push down, basically possibly taking all of this liquidity down that it's kind of building over here, because this I always like when I see these perfect higher lows building in the market as I wait for them to get taken
Yes,
and everyone's yes, exactly. So yeah, that's kind of the thing, like we have Pepe, we have Shift right now, and we can also check other coins like the ones I recently mentioned, like what is it? This I don't know. Here we go. So Monero, Tau, KAS, and Dot possibly as well. But yeah, like for intraday trades, I would definitely focus on Pepe and Shift. And obviously, like Bitcoin is always going to be king. So it really depends what Bitcoin is kind of doing right now. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin at the moment?
This is a really interesting one for me, man, because looking at BTC, it's kind of rolling over a little bit with equities. It does look weak. I mean, hype is the one that's standing out for its strength at the moment. We're not a million miles into the equity session at the moment, right? So I would expect the market to have calmed. There's not much has really happened. I think Oil is up again today, which is putting a lot of pressure on risk assets. We've got a slightly elevated VIX at 26 still. Again, not really kind of pushing the narrative that it's super bullish. Gold's kind of been doing its own thing, right? So where we used to use that as a risk on and risk off proxy, that's been really, really difficult with the heightened geopolitical tensions. I think it's I think it's an interesting one, right? I'm liking Sol at the moment because Sol is pushing down aggressively off of the range lows. Let me see if we can get this screen changed over. Let me see. Let's have a look.
So here the guys are asking if there are going to be any giveaways today. So of course we will have a giveaway at the end of today's session. So make sure to tune in. And as always, guys, the ones that are more active on the chats, we are going to choose between of you guys, and we are going to do an amazing type of giveaway today. So make sure to keep your heads active on the chats and ask more questions as you can.
Yeah, really good heads up there from Bast. We want to make these shows. It's going to be a really interesting one. By the way, Hype looks like it could be setting up for a nice short, so we're going to pop across to that in a moment. But the idea of these of these engagements is people that are active in the chats, people that are adding value, asking questions, getting involved. We're going to reward everybody at the end of these shows with giveaways, all right? And also, we're going to cut live to our head office in Prague, where we're going to have a little bit of fun with the giveaway wheel, or as we call it, the wheel of crypto prop fortune. All right. We can absolutely see Bitcoin falling at the moment, Fred. And by the way, guys, apologies if we haven't got around to your questions at the moment. We're going to run through everything. Loving the engagement in the chat. Keep it going. If you've got questions, please do ask. All right. Now, if we can, let me see if I can.
There you go.
Screen up. Right. The reason I like Hype here, right, is we can see it's rolling over. We can see Bitcoin's rolling over. We've got equities as well over here, starting to move it down into the red. Now, this is really simply just a 2-day composite, all right, that we take from TPO. So again, I'll run through that kind of stuff again soon. Now, one of the things when we've got a ranging environment, something we used to use on the desk is we would look for acceptance back within a value area, right? So in traditional markets, it's known as the 80% rule, and in crypto, thanks to a wonderful trader, by the way, Flowhorse Ryan, did this amazing study on everything and found out it's more of a kind of 76% in here as well. Roma, hey buddy. And hi to everybody else that's joined as well. What that means is if we're in a traditional market, you've got to remember they close, right? So if you open outside of a value area and price then closes 230 or 2 TPO within the back in the value area, they're 30-minute candles. So we're looking for an hourly close within the value area. You have a 76% chance that price moves to the other side of that value area. So using this as an example, this morning, we saw the same thing. Right? So this is what I'm watching for here on Hype. We set this range, right? We've got the composite here, which ends at this point, right? So this was midnight over here. This is as we're moving into Tuesday, right? Now, what's happened here is we can see price is trading outside of here. Price opens up here outside of the value area, right? And because we're on a 30-minute chart here, we get the 2 candles close within, bullish candle 1 and 2. They don't actually have to be bullish candles. I'd be checking here after this secondary close. But then as soon as you close outside, we've got to remember in crypto, we're in a 24/7 market, all right? So we don't get the luxury of price closing out on us. So the rule is if you close outside of a value area, it resets. So then when you see 2 30-minute closes back with inside, then look how price moves to the other side of the range. Now, one of the things that's a little bit tricky here, and just to give you context, the boxes here allow for the TPO, which is time price opportunity, as well as the volume profile. So it's volume and price. If they don't overlap perfectly, then what I do is I allow a little box in here as well to kind of show it more as an area. What we can see now is that we've got the pressure that's coming on to equity markets. We've got the pressure that's coming on is just starting to get this back inside the range. If we look at the playbook we had this morning for Solana, we had exactly the same thing, right? So I'm just going to show you here exactly how this kind of looks played out, all right? Again, price tries to get back outside of the area here. Look, we get 2 candle closes back inside, and price then coming back to test the value area the other side, all right? The key thing here is aligning it with key liquidity pools, all right? So when I'm talking about key liquidity pools, I'm talking about higher time frame highs and lows. Yeah, these are things that would convert onto higher time frame charts where we know we have a larger collection of traders, and this is where you start bringing funds and major money, smart money, whatever people kind of call it nowadays. And what we're looking for above here is to gain acceptance, right? And then look to trade this to the upside. If we don't get that, and ultimately price breaks down back within the range, our highest likelihood is that price is coming back to the other side of the range. The caveat here is that you absolutely have to make sure that you're in ranging conditions, all right? So if we look at it across here, for example, it's no good me kind of coming into the chart on a day like this where we've had a large sell-off and go, oh, okay, well, if we step back into this range, great. Ultimately, what we're doing here is we're creating a new dealing range. All right, we want to know in terms of volume what's happening here, and then we look for these areas and low volume nodes ultimately to get involved in the market. And if you start aligning that with, you know, key wick highs, for example, where we can find those liquidity pools, that's where we can trade off of them. So just to give you a little bit of context on that, guys, you know, as an intraday trader, I never really marry my bias too much. I have the plan as I go into the market, all right? And then I let the market give me an indication of what it wants. So if we reclaim this range here, for example, then this is great because it looks like this is a deviation from the range low. If price comes back into the range here, yeah, we get that close, we look for some strength, then we look for the range highs, but also I'm looking for that last supply candle, all right, the last bullish candle here, the up close candle. I'm looking at that to start to scale out of these positions, right? We're only looking for quick scalps either side of the range. So if we go back to hype, then there's a small chance that the market's being led here. So hype isn't going to have the option but to kind of correct back. The issue that we have here is that, you know, we need this 30-minute candle to close. So in about 11 minutes, we're going to take a look and we're going to see what we got in there. Fred, yeah, it could just be a small correction as well. We need to remember that, you know, as we zoom out, yeah, if we go to a higher time frame here and we look at something like the 4-hour, you know, we can see ultimately how bullish price is here. And what I would do in a situation like this is I start adding the key moving averages here. And what we can see here with hype on the H4 is it's just beautiful. We come into these points of compressions, the MAs pinch. We then get the expansion. And in a fast trending market, I want to see the 10 and the 20 moving averages support price on the way up. All right. So I've got the EMA for the 10, EMA for the 20, SMA for the 50, 100, and 200 as well. All right. These, I won't say altcoins, I do have these going back to all-time highs. I don't think so, guys. You know, not going to sit here and tell you crypto is looking hot because of the sake of crypto. I just don't think it is. I think it's struggling in the face of risk markets. I think we've lost some really key levels on the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, for example, if we take a look at them quickly. Yeah, if we're looking at this in the same vein, you just forgive these are just sessions, all right? But you can see price on this for a while. You know, people talking about bullish equities. Equities have been going sideways for ages, or most of them anyway. We lost a lot of steam in the market. Software came under a lot of heavy pressure. Technology has seemed like it was kind of overvalued at the time, all right? So what we can see here is, you know, really, really messy. We haven't really been in this brilliant uptrend since here, you know, and this is what we're looking for here, the space between the moving averages to put back in there. All right. So at the moment, I'm a little bit cautious on crypto in truth. I think we are going to have these pops. I think ultimately it's going to get to levels where it's going to seem like real value. All right. So we will take a look. And because it has come up quite a lot, let's just take a quick look at TAO. Yeah. Just for everyone. I know it's the thing. Maybe Bast, you can give us a little bit on it in terms of what it's looking like today on the market. I mean, looks pretty strong here on the 4-hour. A lot of cryptos kind of seen this nice move up. We want to be a little bit careful here because we are trading, you know, beneath the prior liquidity. All right. So we've got this high. Price is now back underneath, close below. It's starting to find some resistance. We've got a little bit of room to travel down to the 20 and the 10 down here. So I think we're looking around about 296. Might be a good area to kind of get involved in this. And then let's have a look. So, okay, this might give a good example. So by the way, these moving averages, I set them to the 4-hour. So even when I move down the time frames, all right, it really gives me an indication of how the dynamics are starting to breathe. But I don't like leaving them on the chart because I feel like it just kind of clusters them. But it does remind me that, if I want to short this today, I'm doing so, into a really bullish high time frame asset. So just quickly before I pass you back to Bast, I'm just going to put the TPO on here and kind of just show you what I mean about this. If you're using the TPO or something and you're just finding it really just messy with the price, just turn the price off up here. You can go up to here and you can go to hide. And then it kind of gives you a little bit of a clearer indication, right? And what we can see here is that when price kind of came into this area here, we had profile overlap here as well before this expansion. So often what we do is we just merge these profiles together, all right? Trading views maybe a little bit slow today. And I would merge it with this one as well, just because it's a complete inside day. Now what we're going to get here is a larger value area, and we're going to take it up to the volume as well, at the high and down into here, right? So value area high, value area low. Now, what's interesting here is we're looking at where price opens and closes within the day as well to see if we've got that strength. But as we leave it like this, and then we're also just going to draw in the high of this, which we're going to do in a box, right? So the value area high along with the volume high. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to bring price back in and we're going to get rid of the TPO. Right, so what we see in here is we get these days of balance, right? And then price ultimately probes into the highs, we come back down, all right? Balanced there as well, 2 closed candles within here. I would be looking short at this point until, you either get stopped out, you're caught offside, or until price starts to build acceptance outside of this range, right? And ultimately we can see how this moved higher. So we've got a good set of parameters from today, right? As well as the fact that we've kind of got this range going on across here. I'm saying to myself, well, longs above this range higher and taking out this key resistance here are probably the play if we're bullish, or from down here, right? So nice expansion above here, start to get comfortable, we look to move up, or we see a bigger flush lower, right? Start taking out some demand, engaging with these areas here, and a quick reaction here could also lead us to some long setups. So that's what I would be looking at here on TAO. I think if we step back into this range, it's quite a small range here with key resistance above, so I'm not really sure that it's worth kind of taking that on at the moment. What do you think? Bast, where are you with this one?
Yeah, definitely. So I was screening that chart. I'm looking for a short opportunity on Tau, to be honest, right now. I'm seeing this, the daily chart has been kind of rejecting the previous weekly high around 293.28, just like 2 times already. If we go into the footprint charts here, let me go. Okay, so if we go into the footprint charts here, let me go lower to see a little bit more detail over here.
You're looking for absorption, right? You're looking for these trap traders at the highs.
Yeah, exactly. So if we go into these volume footprint charts, we can clearly see how much buy volume was trading around here. Here in this kind of failed action, failed breakout, we don't see much buying volume. And now this candle is kind of important. We will need at least 9 hours for this candle to close, right? But I'm trading on the assumption of all of these traders already getting caught on this attempt to go long here on Tau, especially because like Bitcoin still has some bearish pressure, and most altcoins are not going to survive that bearish pressure. That, as you mentioned previously, we are having like equities having also bearish pressure on the intraday charts, which is definitely going to translate into the crypto market eventually. So for me, at least, the bias I would say for Tau. Considering these two failed actions at the top, the most important one being this one, which is already highlighting the trap traders on the top. We are seeing this 4-hour failed action as well, like this 3 candle pattern that I normally look for, like one close, second close, everyone's getting bullish, closing above the previous high, and then the third candle closes back into the range. If we go into the high related volume kind of indicator, we can see that price is traveling around and above this high related volume candle that made the previous high, which is an interesting thing to see. Also, I mean, this is a really common pattern in which you see 3 drives into a high. And after these three drives essentially take place, you will see market reversal taking place. So essentially on the, I would say, the intra-week time frames, like daily, 4 hour, hourly, um, I would say I would wait for a breakdown below this level, which is the low that made the latest high on the hourly chart, right? So as soon as we have the low, a breakdown below this level, price, as you said, survives below here, then I will be looking for shorts and targeting all of this area that it's also looking for, looking nice in terms of liquidity. You know, we have all of these lows building
Mhm.
down there that eventually will possibly get taken, like, you know, double bottom formations that we're seeing
Mhm.
here. So I'm looking for this, taking into consideration this bias that I'm building. Of course, if the daily chart continues to closes above 293, like previous high, then my buy is going to be wrong here, you know, and
Mhm.
possibly going to get stopped out and all that. It
It
really
teaches
depends.
you a lot, though, right? Sometimes, Bass. Sorry to jump in, but like
Yeah.
for me, somebody asked me recently. I was in Dubai with an exchange doing a talk out there, and one of the questions that came in I thought was a really really good one, and actually it comes back similar a question in the chat that I'll come back to in a minute. But you know, people were saying with this, like, you know, you set all these plans up, you walk into these plans, and then all of a sudden the market just shifts and completely blows your position out of the water. Like you just, it's so weird as a trader, you have to absolutely start falling in love with losing. Some of my most successful systems in crypto, the win rate's in the 30% region. But as I always tell myself I'm trying to probe into the day using very, very small amounts. If I start getting confirmation, I can start to pyramid into the positions and add some more. But think of it like this. Now, let's imagine that we were probing those highs on the chart here on Solana, right? And we're thinking, you know what, this is coming up. Maybe we're getting a little bit too, you know, a little bit too saucy for our own good. And we kind of married this idea that price is going to rip today. And then price works against us. So we spend a little bit of money. Basically, we get a couple of stops taken. It's why it's so important to secure your risk. And we see price kind of pushing up. Well, ultimately, I've then got a set of parameters that tells me, okay, well, if I'm feeling bullish here, and I can see the exhaustion that's coming into these levels. You know, just like Bast, I use volume footprint as well. So I'm looking for, you know, really aggressive buyers coming into passive sellers at the higher, and they just can't move the needle. Ultimately, you know, even just looking at what's on the price chart here, prices can sometimes be a bit of a simpler animal than people think, right? Because where you see these consolidations and even decanting this down onto a lower time frame, right? Where you see these moves or these origins, as I call them, that lead to other moves, right? That lead to moves lower. These are just areas of balance, right? So this is where participants agree. And the reason here is that when that transactions are happening, this is what allows larger players to ultimately fill their positions. You know, larger players aren't coming in like we are trying to, you know, scale up to a million or a couple of million. People are coming in with multi-millions, right? And the truth is that if they just entered all that in one big fat swoop, the market's going to move. And they don't want that because they're going to suffer lots of slippage. So when I've got a little bit of confirmation in here, and it can be something quite simple, like closing back down below this, what did we do? We came up, swept the high, we've got confirmation of a deviation, we've spent time back below, we can see absorption coming in at the highs, which we will confirm with things like the CBD, looking for divergences, but also looking at the volume footprint. Well, then, you know, we're basically saying to ourselves, we're in a ranging environment. When we're in a ranging environment, price is transitory, moving from one side of value to the other until you get that breakout. So understanding the environment is really, really key. And I just want to jump in to a question quickly that I just saw back in the chats, Bast, which is awesome. We got such an active chat today.
Yeah.
People obviously want that giveaway, right? People want that giveaway. And absolutely interesting. We're going to, you know what? We might even give a couple away at the end because it's our first kind of official stream together and we're loving this. And we got Peter coming up shortly. He's going to give you guys the wheel of crypto fortune as well. So we've got lots of stuff going on. But I wanted to just come back to this quickly from Borcon 1, 2 or Borcon 12. And it's a really good question. How do you handle P&L, profit and loss focus on a large scaling target like 1 million so it doesn't paralyze your decision making? I found over the years, and I'm not a psychologist, but I've worked with some really good psychologists, and we have an amazing in-house psychologist that's available for our traders as well. So make sure you come and take advantage of that. I'm looking at it. I either gamify it, right? Which means that I don't really focus on the amount. I have in my head what I need to open and close, but I'm looking at it as an overall percentage of the account, right? The other thing that I'm doing is I'm being really, really conservative. I always am anyway, whether I've got a 5K account, a 200K account, the highest I've ever traded is about 2.5 million. And, this was a proprietary fund, right? So this is, real, live money as well, right? Then the key thing is just don't take yourself out of the game, right? No matter if you've got conviction in something, scale into it, add a little bit more as you kind of go up. But ultimately, look at the percentages a lot more than you look at the bottom line figure. Because trust me in this, right? And this was told to me at a very, very early stage in my career when I was trading Forex. And that's that they give you really tiny accounts then. And by the time you paid the old school fees and you're using like the MetaTrader platform, which is like slower than MS-DOS, then you're not really making much money. And I was on a commission only contract, right? And I kept pestering them. I'm like, just give me more money, give me more money. And they were right. They said, look, if you can't scale 5K to 10K, then you're not going to scale 1 million to 2 million, right? It's as simple as that. So if you think about the percentages, you're obviously a little bit more exposed to slippage and stuff like that. And the numbers do look a little bit bigger. But ultimately, the way I've always seen it is if you have confidence and a full detailed understanding of your system and your data, that's where your confidence comes from, right? There'll be times in the market when price can really turn against you for extended spells and you'll feel like everything's going against you. Look back at your data, look back at the trades you took in similar situations and realize that you're coming through the other side of this. Ultimately, edge decays over time, the market dynamic changes, all right? But, just if you understand those key principles, it's a lot of the time it's the belief in the trading, right? The belief to hold to those profit targets. I have a few systems I'm going to share with members soon that, rely on a minimum 3-to-1 risk to reward return, right? I have to hold those trades for a minimum of 3-to-1. Otherwise, I just don't get the returns that I need to cover fees, risk, and everything else, all right? So for now, just quickly, and I'm going to stop rattling on and I'll give you back to Bast for a moment because I know we've got the giveaway coming up soon as well. We've got Peter sat in the office just champing at the bit to give away some prizes. Is what I'm looking at here on Solana, right? Actually, Solana's kind of come into this low over here now. I'm not saying that it's showing strength, right? But it's doing something on the 30-minute, all right? This is obviously, changed the dynamic somewhat. Now, if we step back into this range here, right, then if we start to see that, we get equity markets kind of starting to chill out a little bit. Let me smash you guys one of my other screens a moment. Right, so if we get this and then we can see the overthrow here that we've got, the kind of over, now we're coming under, big sell-off down into here. So now we've got a little bit of low time frame potential structure to build because we've seen the displacement into this low and now we're starting to see a little bit of absorption come in here as well. I do like to wait for a bit of confirmation here, right? So I know some aggressive traders might want to get in on this if they see the right absorption. But for me, if we're now coming in and we're changing the dynamic here, we've swept out a local low, we've got our high time frame level. If we can now expand above this, start holding this area, then I think that, like I said, that long is potentially back on the table. But the caveat to this, right, is that I also want to see the NASDAQ playing ball here as well. I want to know that, the main market participants here are willing to allocate towards risk. There's a massive correlation between equity markets, the indices, and crypto, especially at the moment. But the other thing I just want you guys to look at over here is on the right-hand side. Now, this is the Magnificent Seven, all right? Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Nvidia, and Tesla. We can see the majority of these are in the red today, all right? Showing that there is still that kind of pressure on risk markets. And as we see from our little crypto list here, it's actually hype that is, still absolutely belligerently refusing to die. And, their community, I'm sure, will tell you that a hype is built a little bit different. And for my good dear friend, our dear friend, Pedma7, I will say Hyperliquid, all right? Because I know otherwise he's going to be all over Twitter calling me out on it as well. All right, guys. So XRP, let me take a little look at XRP for you, Fred, while we pass back over to Bast, and then we're going to look at the giveaway, all right? So we're going to do the Wheel of Crypto Fortune.
All right. So we're waiting for Peter, right?
Yeah, where's Peter? Where's our boy in the back end? Let's go. Let's go, Pete. Get your best out. There he is, the legend himself.
Hello, everyone. Well, it's my pleasure to be here today. I've been watching very closely for the active chatters, and this is all for you. A little reminder to stay active. So I have a three beautiful names. The first one on the first spot is Fred Giro. So Fred Giro, as you can see, we have a bunch of prizes here. We have the top prize is a 200K challenge that you can win, and there are sorts of discounts and different type of challenges that you can win. So this is our first official spin the wheel giveaway. So best of luck to you. Hey, and Fred Giro is getting a very standardized 10% discount. So please open a ticket where we get you verified with the chat and everything, and we'll set you up there. So on the second spot, we have MJ Trades Crypto. So MJ, I wish you all the luck, and hopefully you can compete for some amazing prizes. So here we go. Oh, that was so close. But hey, congratulations. You got a 5K challenge account. So MJ Trades Crypto. So far, we have a great winners. Feel free to open a ticket on our Discord and let us know that you want to claim the prize. And so on the first spot, we have Hamza Hasnain. Hopefully I pronounced it correctly. Well, Hamza, I wish you best of luck. And let's spin the wheel for you. Looks like the 200. Hey, so close, and there is a 5% discount. So thank you all for participating in this very short spin of the wheel intermezzo. There is also one more giveaway in the end of the stream where you can also ask questions. So thank you all for participating, and join our Discord and create a ticket to claim your prizes. I'm giving back the word to the guys. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. All right, so I've taken a very small position here. All right, on hype. We're just going to see if we get the drop. I think it's kind of holding below now. We're seeing a little bit of absorption. The rest of the market is pretty low. There's, fairly high risk to this one, to be honest. I'm only going in 0.25%. And yeah, I mean, let's absolutely see what we're going to get on this. I'll run through the setup in a minute. Massive congratulations to all the winners as well. I think we had Fred, if I remember, Hamza, who we know really, really well from the Discord, always active, always pushing, always learning. Really good to see you guys get somewhat as well. And then I don't know if it was NJ maybe or MJ, Trades Crypto as well. Saw some real activity down in the chat there as well. So congratulations to everyone. And just really quickly, I saw something, I'm really sorry that I can't get around to all of the questions at the moment, guys, but I saw something from Maureen, I believe, down there. Its highest liquidity is usually during the network and the London, New York and London session merge. Yeah, absolutely. You see the same thing in crypto equities, those kind of changeovers, right? That heightened volume, heightened volatility that comes into the market is a really, really, really nice way to trade. And I'm a really big fan of overlaying time principles. I do slightly different to what might be considered quite traditional in the market. But ultimately, yeah, I'm a big fan of that to understand where your setups come in. Now, again, it depends kind of what time frames and stuff you're trading on, because if you're trying to swing into this on a 4 hour, then the New York session probably means a little bit kind of less to you. But overall, it's a really, really amazing study to do, guys. So I'd really, really recommend it to everyone. What have you got for us, Basti?
Yeah, so one of the questions I wanted to answer regarding on the chat, well, first of all, congratulations to every one of the winners. This was a nice spin of the wheel. So people were talking about some guy, I'm not sure who, was up like 2% over the past 2 weeks. So maybe there's bad expectations in the markets, in trading itself, when people start trading, because we see all of these influencers going in telling you like, oh, today I made $1 million and tomorrow I will make another 500,000, and this is like 100% of my account in a couple of days. So I just wanted to clarify that if you are up on 2% on the last 2 weeks, you are still on the top 5% of the of the traders out there. The expectations that we normally get about trading, you see the big funds, the big hedge funds, and BC here can tell him he can tell he has worked with real desks, with real traders out there, making around like 2-3% a month is already a big thing, like that's insane. So um, be patient with your challenges, trade the challenges and trade your funded accounts as if they were your real money, because people often come into the prop firm space and say like, okay, I can risk 5%, 6%, 10% for each trade. I just want to get funded quickly, then take my payout. The most likely thing that is going to happen to you is that you're going to lose your account. So I'm always of the thought that, like, trade responsibly and keep your expectations centered. So I just wanted to answer that question. And well, for me at least, I'm looking for this Bitcoin setup. Okay, we know that the weekly chart remains to be bearish here. Okay, the weekly chart remains to be bearish here. If we are going to add up on the visible range volume profile. So I like it really much. This, like what BC was explaining about the low volume nodes, high volume nodes on these charts are very, very interesting to me to look for. So just let me set this up pretty quickly. All right, so we can clearly see that the weekly chart has been trading lower. Okay, we have been running on a accumulation over the past few weeks, 6 weeks trading within this range that is actually building within this high volume node currently, right? But all of these rejections that we are currently seeing right now are coming directly from this low volume node formation on the weekly chart. Okay, so this low volume node formation can easily be spotted in confluence with price, because for me at least, it's not only about picking up like the low volume nodes and high volume nodes directly blindly from the volume profile, but actually make them have sense directly with price action itself. So we can clearly see that this low volume node is building up from this liquidity gap that we used to have here. Okay, so this liquidity gap is the one that is actually rejecting price, and we are kind of having this SNR flip right now, in which the weekly chart is trading now below 75k main support area that was in the past, and now it's coming into resistance. All right, so this level, I'm going to switch it off and put it on the daily chart as well, because the daily chart is going to give us a little bit more clarity on what is happening. If we see on the anchored VWAP, the current trend is definitely bearish, and we are having this three candle as the one that I recently shared on Tau, three candle formation in which everyone is getting bullish, everyone is pushing into longs into resistance. And actually, if we go into the volume footprint charts on the daily chart, let me switch template pretty quickly. And obviously, okay, if we go here, we're going to see all of these bullish pressure coming up into resistance, a lot of buying into the order flow, a lot of buying into the order flow. And we can clearly see how this candle itself, it's building a lot of buys at the top of the week of this candle. And then the candle that actually builds back into the range, it's completely bearish. Now, the setup that I'm currently looking for, let me go back to the normal template. All right, so we know that we are highlighting this. We have the weekly low volume node resistance here, while we are rejecting this daily cluster. As BC was mentioning, actually, all of these equilibrium areas in which price tends to range, these are often called what you guys might call order blocks. It can also be called clusters, right? These clusters are often let's say resistance and support levels for price, because of how big players play with these levels to interact with their orders. As BC said, they are not often coming with billions of dollars into the market and hit a bottom like we do to open a market position, right? Because that would give them the worst price available for their position. So they often wait for these areas to get filled, because essentially, if they want to short the market, they will be expecting people to go long here. So as the people, the retail traders are buying, guess who is selling? And it's not that they are playing against you. It's not that they are playing against your stop loss. That doesn't work that way. Like there's a magic hand outside of the market looking for you to lose. But that's exactly how liquidity works and you need to study about a little bit about market microstructure and order flow to understand that this is how the market actually works. So by this rejection that we are having on the daily chart over here, I can clearly see how these 4 hour and 1 hour setup, intraday setups, intra-week setups, sorry, that are currently being built here on Bitcoin. So this is the last low that made this high, taking all of these X's at the top. So everyone that was short here were placing their stop losses above these levels specifically. So we can see how the market is pushing up to this level, building a consolidation area in which the market might turn in the future. And that's why I'm waiting for this. So we have the last high, the last low that made this high here. And essentially we have several candles closing below this. And I'm looking for this candle, which was the last bullish candle before the move down for the market to move. All right. If we zoom in a little bit, we're going to see this on the hourly chart and how this consolidation took place. And we see that this consolidation is building on a high volume node. So this high volume node, eventually, if the market will push high towards this level, and it's going to be an easy push for the market because we can see this low volume node building on this liquidity gap that was built on the lows. And often when price travels through these levels with low volume, they travel fast, which is going to mean, if we are going to look into the CBD or into the open interest, if the market goes pushing higher towards these levels, it's going to travel fast towards this, trapping a lot of traders that are going to go aiming long because they will most likely think that the market will continue up. And essentially what we are seeing here is a very common pattern that I trade personally, which is the over and under pattern. So we are seeing this, essentially the market structure shift below these lows, because if we go to the 4 hour chart, it's going to be a lot clearer. So this was the low that made this high. We have this over and under pattern, and essentially we are building the liquidity to go higher. And why I'm putting this level over here is essentially because we can clearly see these lower highs being perfectly built, all right, to catch the attention of late shorts, okay? Then the market is pushing up. These late shorts are already out of the market, but now what I'm seeing right now, it's currently this double top kind of formation, okay? These poor highs that are building right now, because why is this telling me is essentially that people are still on the trying to short the market, coming in to short the market, but these highs will eventually get taken. And with these highs get taken, the market is going to push up into my zone, in which I will be looking for different lower time frame patterns, you know, like over and unders. We can look for triple top formations that essentially build these kind of patterns. And that's kind of the intra-week pattern that I'm looking for Bitcoin right now. So in essence, and kind of to round up things, is that I'm still expecting for Bitcoin to push a little bit higher, maybe on the intraday basis. Right now, I think BC is shorting hype, which is absolutely amazing because it's essentially building up with the current sentiment on Bitcoin that it's also pushing down. So these intraday scalps can definitely be beneficial for your account, for your short-term growth account. But I'm more like a swing trader, and that this is kind of the setup that I'm looking for. And also the one that we just talked about that I'm looking for, because if you guys didn't mention it about Tao, I wouldn't have looked for this setup. So it's kind of essentially the same. Possibly this is going to take possibly until tomorrow to build up, to see the hourly chart building below this level. If Bitcoin is going to push up higher, this is where Bitcoin becomes kings. So I'm expecting for Bitcoin to actually push higher to get into my level. That means that Tao can actually push higher and invalidate my setup here, and we are going to have another setup in the incoming days. So that's kind of my thoughts on the market right now. Same with equities. Equities are definitely pushing lower and lower and lower. It may be a slow push. If we go into the weekly chart, we can clearly see how the current range it's built between this high, okay, this high, this low over here, that it's currently being tested at the moment. Okay, if this weekly high is not able to survive, then the whole market, the whole price structure on the weekly chart is going to shift bearish. And why I'm not taking these highs into consideration, you may ask yourself, but these are essentially all for me failed breakouts, because we have one candle closing above, then the next candle closes below. We have a 3 candle setup here, one candle closes up, third candle closes up, and the third retrieved the range, and same with these ones. Okay, so that's why I'm not taking these ones into consideration. And in fact, I really like what BC mentioned about it was 76% chance of when price rejects one side of a value area, then it's most likely to go towards the next range of the value area higher here. So we have a rejection here, we have a rejection here, and now we are testing the value area lows. Now, at some extent, many people tend to think that a resistance or a support level gets stronger when it's tested most times, okay? Which for me at least is not true. The more a support area or the more a resistance area gets tested, it means that all of the liquidity in that area that it's supporting or resisting the price action is getting consumed. So essentially, eventually, order flow is going to shift and price is going to break aggressively from that level alone. So if that takes place, obviously this is going to depend on the macro political side. If we talk a little bit about that, we saw at the start of this week, yesterday, Trump announcing that they are in talks with Iran, essentially ceasefiring for the next 5 days. And then a couple minutes after that and a couple hours after that, we saw Iran saying like, we are not in talks with the US and we are going to keep attacking. So essentially all of this manipulation on the headlines that is taking place right now is kind of making people, a little bit crazy in terms of price action. But you need to see the big picture right now. And the big picture right now is that the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Okay, the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, even though we are having a ceasefire, even though whatever Trump can says, the Strait of Hormuz keeps being closed right now. And I don't see oil easing up right now. We might have right now like a small consolidation after the push up to 120 that was a couple weeks ago. Okay, but this consolidation, if you go into the 4-hour chart on oil, is just a screaming more upside, at least for me. And if this is a screaming more upside on oil, that means that all of the risk on assets such as equities and such as crypto are going to keep taking a hit. Okay, so that means essentially that from a macro perspective, at least if you take a look at the macro political side, oil is going to keep pushing higher. And if oil is going to keep pushing higher, then you can expect more downside for risk on assets such as Bitcoin. That nonetheless, we can still take advantage of intraday setups to long and short depending. And well, that's the expert BC here showing you how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I had the pleasure of working with Bast for 2-3 years, I think, another firm a while ago. So, I think he's really the secret expert here. But look, I completely agree. And just to kind of go to a few points that were in the chat, Maureen, again, feels like Trump just manipulating the market. I don't think there's any shadow of a doubt about that. If you kind of track in terms of the openings, the futures contracts that were shorting oil, the ones that bought, high hundreds of millions in the S&P 500, it's unfortunately something that has become all too commonplace. I wouldn't say that Trump's the only one that's done it, but I think we saw evidence of this under the Biden administration as well, on a much more kind of, I want to say subtle, but I also want to say, Trump is very, very blatant with this. But it does give us an indication, right? What we can understand about this is we can say, okay, this is something that we can look to play ourselves. I'm out of hype, by the way, guys. Just came out of that here because we're rolling over, strength coming in to the NASDAQ, as we can see over here, as well as Bitcoin. But we'll update all of this for you guys, obviously, after the show as well. I think any key news events are really, really hard to trade. All right. If you have these massive liquidity drivers, you get these huge pumps. Ultimately, it's quite difficult to then get in. We saw this yesterday with Bitcoin, right? We had that massive move up, right? That kind of, clear manipulation, if you like, whatever you want to look at it as. There's some kind of catalyst that has ripped the market higher. So all you can do is you want to remain calm. If you get taken out of a position because of a news catalyst, make sure you journal it, make sure you understand why it happened. If it was a technical mistake, if it was an error, right, then it's really, really simple. But in the same vein, you should be aware of when all of his scheduled announcements are. We can't do anything about Truth Social, unfortunately. But what we can absolutely do is keep an eye on the White House posts, which we're not going to make this political, but I've never seen anything more astonishing in my life than some of the stuff coming out of the White House at the moment in terms of videos. But all of these things are really, look, you know, we all need to realize we're pawns in a much, much larger game here, right? So if you find yourself consistently getting affected by this, make a note of it, allow for it, make sure you're in tune with the thing. You can get some brilliant live news feeds that come up. You can get into things like Bloomberg on their Twitter feed, which saves you having a really expensive subscription. And you can even listen to the live shows. You know, often I'll have Bloomberg on in the background just through a DAB feed, because they will pick up on the stuff really, really quickly. And it might just be enough if you're a longer term trader or a swing trader to be able to kind of secure your positions and then look to kind of potentially move away from that. Now, there's also loads of other really good questions coming in. But yeah, $97 oil now is a really, really good point over there. It's a really interesting one, right? Looking at Brent at the moment, they're sitting around about 100. 110 is normally the cutoff for which it puts severe hurt on supply chains. And I don't think that we're really seeing that wash through at the moment, right? The Strait of Hormuz was always going to be weaponized in this kind of way with any conflict with Iran. And anytime that this thing's going on, it doesn't seem like a quick resolution. This wasn't like when they took Maduro out of Venezuela, right? Okay, and again, politically, I'm not taking a side on any of this, but what I am saying is what we saw was a very quick resolution to an issue that didn't really do crazy things to the market, right? Versus what we're looking at now, which is, you know, actually this has the potential to be quite protracted, and whilst that goes on, the longer it goes on, the more pressure comes onto supply chains. So that's what we want to really kind of look at. In terms of what we're looking at today, right, hype is now above where we were talking about earlier on a very, very, very low time frame. So let me switch you over and ping you a different chart for a second. All right, so we had excuse me, hype on that. Just looking at Bitcoin very quickly here as well, right? These were the areas, actually outlaid these with members. All right, this is our kind of pivot point down here. This is the key support, higher time frame. This is the key resistance, again, based around, you know, our larger range that we've got here and the fact that price can't quite get out of this range, right? So we were seeing weakness. We're now seeing hype kind of deviate those highs and move down. So we are going to take a look at that. A little concerned about this kind of level. We had this key support or this key consolidation here that could act as support. So price could easily be coming down in here to test this. But the more it's kind of probing into this low, over here, this is a 15-minute chart, the more that I'm kind of looking for this NQ. So we're seeing an aggressive move down here in the NASDAQ. All right, so that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on in terms of this. Hype still kind of battling away with this up here. Yeah, we had a slight close below here, secondary close here, henceforth aggressively out of the position because this was a chase trade based on momentum of where the market was heading. The NQ is now kind of moving all over the place. So at the moment, this is holding this uptrend quite nicely as we start to see a bit more strength coming to this, as long as Bitcoin behaves and the equity markets don't completely tank. It looks like NASDAQ's really struggling to kind of be pushed a lot lower here at the moment, right? Especially if we look at this thing on the lower time frames, right? We're coming in, we can't get down below this low here. You know, price ultimately, a lot of selling came into the market here to kind of push this down on the low time frames. You know, we're getting a really, really beautiful reversal pattern starting to form here. So this could be good. And like Bas said about earlier, if I want to be long an asset, right, I want to be long from the lows, or I want to see a really, really convincing breakout of the highs. So if we go to something like Solana, for example, you know, there's a chance now with Sol that we kind of step back within the range. All right. And then we can look for confirmation back in that range and then trade this thing as an initial target back up to the range highs. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting day for sure. Whenever you kind of step into the market after you've had any kind of key moves in here, any of these large expansions, I'm always kind of looking left and saying, are we really kind of getting above the key resistance, or are, you know, obviously if we're looking to be bullish, or how is key support doing? And as we can see here, it's just kind of holding this level up here at the moment on Sol, right? So if we look at this, we kind of draw this across in terms of the volume profile, yeah, we can see this is what we were looking at earlier. We've had a little bit of a shift in this now, but the range low is pretty key. So I'm just kind of looking at this here, really, guys. It's a bit kind of low in the game to be looking to get short, especially after we've had this big expansion. But deviations of lows, price stepping back above, we've seen some nice absorption there at the lows. We can often look to trade these things higher, but for a little bit more confirmation, I just want to see price, you know, stepping back into this range here. Like we said, as long as we've got that, then we can kind of get that little bit of a lift, you know, raised a little bit, and we can look for price kind of coming into these levels. If we see hard rejections of this area, by the way, then, you know, we've got a pre-made target down here, but I'd be careful kind of getting much lower and shorting into this, because you're just not going to have the risk to reward. You're going to push your percentages too hard. And kind of going back to a few of the questions people were asking about funded accounts, one of the things as an intraday trader that we have to get used to, and especially for me, you know, coming across from traditional markets, trading mostly kind of equities, the S&P 500, the indices, you need to be really quick with execution and make sure you don't make those mistakes. So what I would say is, if you ever feel like you're rushing a trade, you know, more often than not, it makes sense to kind of step back from it, right? You know, missing one winning trade or one trade until it isn't going to shape your career in this game, and it won't shape your funded. But rushing into a trade, fumbling it, and just getting, you know, getting yourself really hurt means you've got to go through that whole evaluation process again, right? But it's a really, really, really good process. You know, when I worked on a desk, we had a risk manager, and some of my best trades, people would just, you know, risk manager would come up and be like, you're overexposed to the trade, don't like the setup, you know, we don't think that it's going this way, and they'll pull the plug on you, or they'll reduce your risk on the position considerably, or they'll make you stop out loads of your position at a loss, and that ultimately is going into what's paying you at the end of the month, as your funded account is as well, right? Just the difference is they didn't give me the opportunity to get into a 200k funded account straight away. You know, we were trading with like $5,000-10,000. But yeah, I think we've got a really clear plan here on Solana. If we just kind of flick across here onto BTC as well, I think it's worth kind of taking a look at this. We can see we've got some really clean range lows here on Bitcoin, right? If we kind of take the volume profile and look at this more locally, again, we've got a really, really similar playbook, right? Price struggling to force its way above this. If we can climb back in this range here on Bitcoin, I think we could see some expansion. Now, a kind of middling target that we use here is the POC, the point of control, which we can see through here. Price steps up in, and then we look for that expansion up into the highs. So certainly going to be watching that as well. And actually, let me just, I think it might have been Fred or somebody asked for XRP. So I just kind of labeled this up really, really, really simply. This is just from our TPO. All right, so this is where we've got the highs and the lows. Again, separation between the time and the volume, but we can see price is well within this region at the moment. Now, you know, a really, really good friend of mine and a wonderful trader called Follis has this brilliant saying, which is don't diddle in the middle, right? And it just means that unless you've got real conviction, or you're really kind of engaging a key liquidity target, like something like this high, or if we look at this across the line here, we've got these kind of equal highs, right? Or relative equal highs here, really key liquidity pools, then I don't want to be active here unless price, you know, we get some kind of SFP here, right? Or we get something here as well, right? And again, then we're going to look at the broader market. You know, what's the risk on appetite like? What's the risk off appetite like? And we can look to make a playbook from there. Unfortunately, the crypto market, or any market, is no respecter of what I want. I really, really wanted to kind of jump in and find some kind of setups in that today. But as is quite natural when you see these large expansions, right, in the market, these large impulse moves, the likelihood that you get some kind of consolidation after that. Let's look at this example here. Large drop, consolidation, then even after this drop here, more consolidation, right? Ultimately, price was sat in a range all the way through here until we got that drop over there. And one of the best bits of advice that I could give people, not that you're necessarily asking for it, but I found really, really helpful, was understanding whether you're in ranging or compressing environments, yeah, or whether you're trending. So when you step into a day and you're trying to long this, for example, this is almost certainly a weekend because you can tell, right? But when you're stepping into this and you see the drop and you've got a really clear range in here, well, what you're doing is you can align these with many different things. You don't have to trade this range, but this range will then tell you a lot. We have an overnight expansion. We can then look across and say, okay, where was the consolidation controlling the market previously, like this? As we start to establish ourselves above here, looking for these long, thin moves, they often get retraced, yeah, as quickly as they come down, because the key liquidity, like Bast was talking about earlier, is sat above these highs, yeah. Because if not, really, where am I trading this to? Okay, we've got some inefficiencies through here. Yeah, we've got some gaps. They typically act as a magnet for price. So you see price comes into it here and has that initial rejection lower. But then when we start to gain back into it, yeah, we can extract this data across like this and say to ourselves, okay, well, it's like any kind of support and resistance flip. If this gap ultimately exists, this inefficiency is there to drive price lower or to give participants the opportunity to enter. When we then get above, we hold this area, look for that absorption, we can see then that price is kind of ready to pull up. So as we look at this today on XRP, yeah, we can see we've had this large expansion. We're in absolutely no way are we consolidating here, right? We've got a range which gives us an idea of how value has migrated from the previous day. But within this, I'm saying to myself, well, okay, where's the last place sellers control the market, right? And it's in here, yeah, or it's this. So as I'm looking, I'm saying, okay, all this price action over here was very structured, yeah, came down, nice staircase pattern. Here we had quite a large drop. Here we've had a displacement drop as well. So I can be patient here. I can say to myself, okay, well, if we expand, we get above here, then that's going to be the long into target. Ultimately, we can secure some profit then, and either we get above and gain acceptance above here and we look up, or we see that sharp projection lower, in which case we can then still target this equilibrium on the way down. And obviously you need years in the financial markets to make drawings that are that accurate. But, you know, in terms of what I'm looking for, I think sometimes what I see in a lot of people, and especially people that I've worked with over the years or done mentoring with, is the eagerness to enter a trade, right? We all get there. You know, everybody wants to trade. Everybody wants to be involved in the markets. But if we can identify the key areas that we probably want to be getting involved in the markets, yeah, then it just gives us that little help. Like, obviously, buyers that were privy to this, Trump et al., right, are quite probably going to want to defend that area if we come back there, right? So by the time we get back here and we lose this range, and then we drive into this, and a load of people try to short it, they're paying, you know, not quite enough attention to the fact that we're smashing into an area that price was previously considered value, all right? And it's interesting to just note the dynamics between that, like with Hyperliquid here, right? So we're now back above this area. Yeah. So I'm now saying to myself, okay, well, let's see on a 30-minute scale what we're doing. We've had one closure above here. We've got 21 minutes for the next closure. If we start to really make sense and make a hold of this up here, then drawing back to this, we can look, you know, to trade this more to the upside. At the moment, we're seeing the NASDAQ hold some pretty decent levels on the, you know, on the micro time frames as well. The CBD looks pretty good. We're seeing Bitcoin kind of hold. So if we see that kind of start to come back in, we can see now hype really trying to move higher. Then the playbook on hype changes. You know, down here, I was absolutely happy to short down into these lows, right? Bitcoin was weak. We completed the range transition. Equities were rolling over. Now, the information that comes in, and I believe it's called a Bayesian methodology, which is where we're constantly taking on board new information, is that when that dynamic changes and you're exposed to risk and you're counter trading a trend, just get out. Right? If price comes and drops back down and you miss out on the trade, fair enough, but you normally get re-entries here. So anyway, we tried to establish ourselves above here, got rejected, but set a higher low. Yeah. Tried to establish ourselves above here again, came back down, probed into this same low and found out that the buyer's there. The buyer's protecting this level that pushed the market up from here. So now establishing ourselves back above here. Yeah, I really, really do think that this is potential to kind of move this higher. But we do need to be careful of equity markets indices and obviously what Bitcoin is doing as well. Right, let me pass you back to Bast and I'll take a little look at the questions.
All right, guys. So currently looking for this setup on Shift. I'm going down into the minute chart. So the hourly chart is kind of bullish at the moment. I was checking this candle alone over here, which recently took the lows from the current high of this range. If we go into the footprint charts, we will be able to showcase the following over here. So this candle has value area high, value area low at the wick of the candle, point of control at the lows, but we can clearly see how all of this short volume came into place when it was trading low, meaning that people were shorting essentially from here. So the bias for the intraday chart on the hourly is telling me to go short, essentially, to go long, because we are having this failed action at the range lows, okay? After that, the 10-minute chart, it's building this high related volume, bullish engulfing candle. Okay, bullish engulfing candle, high related volume. After also taking the structural low over here, which if we go indeed into the footprint charts on the 10-minute, I don't know why it's not displaying. Oh, okay. Let's go for over here. Okay, so we can clearly see how this bullish engulfing, even though it's obviously a bullish delta candle, we have a lot of shorts taking place over here. Okay, so this is taking the liquidity from these previous lows over here, which was I was highlighting previously on the stream. Perfect. Taking these lows, the liquidity behind this perfect higher lows built over here. And now into the minute chart. If we go over here, we can clearly see how the CBD is printing a divergence with price and a divergence with open interest. So from this move lower, it's telling me from the open interest perspective on this move lower, there was new short positions getting opened over here. Okay. From a CBD perspective, it's making an exhaustion divergence essentially because the CBD is making higher lows while the price is making a lower low. Okay, this is currently an exhaustion divergence, and I'm waiting for price to take my limit order. I already set it up on here. It was almost taken with this push lower. Possibly I might not get filled, or possibly yes. All of these kind of small higher lows that price is currently building right now are kind of building the liquidity below this. People placing stop losses, expecting prices to go to push higher, while I'm expecting for price at least to fill this liquidity gap in which it will take my order and then possibly head higher toward my take profit levels, which are essentially not just random levels, but is first take profit will be located at the previous lower high of the 10-minute chart, and then second take profit will be located at the previous high on the hourly chart at around 0.0061 sats. Okay, so this is the position I'm sharing with you guys today. I already set the limit order here, risking 1% of my account, $2,000, around $2,000, and looking to get around 2 to 1. It's 2.4 risk to reward setup over here. So let's see if we get filled. If not, then we just move on. And if we get filled and we get stopped out, that's essentially part of the game. What do you think about this setup? I'm a scalping right here.
Yeah, man. I mean, it worries me seeing you on lower time frames, right? You know, like I think, you know, you've always been such a good swing trader, and I think, you know, I don't want you stealing all my thunder down here on the minute charts. You know, like I'm happy at the same time that you're going to be exposed to all the big fees that us poor intraday traders have to pay as well. Because normally I complain to Bast about how much I pay in fees, and he sends me a little crying emoji saying, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you." When we all know he doesn't. But yeah, I really like it, man. It's a bread and butter type setup for me. I think ultimately sometimes we have to kind of move away from the fact of what we think is going on, what's geopolitics going to do, what is Trump going to tweet, etc., and say, look, if we've got a good technical setup, the charts give us a pure print indication of what the market is doing. And I love that setup. I love those kind of untapped lows that sweep back into a key level. Yeah, I think it's a classic move because, again, the move lower, then people start to panic. They start to shed their positions, right? You generate more liquidity. Price can then have those big pops to the upside. But what I love the most about the statement is just the casual nature of which Bast says, and if we take our stop, that's part of the game, right? It just... You know, I think one of the worst things about trading is the social platforms. A lot of the time, people, you know, flexing Rolexes, Lambos, going, "Oh yeah, you know, I made 500K today" and stuff like that. I've had the pleasure of working alongside some really, really amazing crypto traders, Bast being one of them. Some really, really big players in the industry, but like traditional market traders that have printed, you know, double and triple figure millions in their careers as well, and all of those people that I know were just very humble, hardworking grinders. You know, somebody I believe in the chat earlier said, "What would you look in terms of a time frame to grow from a low account up to $1 million?" like a long time, guys. Like that's why I'm just, just to be honest with you, this is why prop accounts just give you that access to capital, right? Because let's imagine you've got $1,000 or $500, and even that's a lot of money for a lot of people. It was a lot for me at one stage in my younger life, right? Also that starts to go wrong. You're always tempted to add more risk. You're tempted to kind of push things a little bit too far because you want to start, replacing some of your current income with stuff. And that's really when the danger comes in, is when we're trying to kind of bend our own rules. I think Hamza actually messaged in the chat earlier as well and said that it's, that over trading is a really big issue. Actually, for me, Hamza, it was the opposite. I was maybe a little bit too risk averse in my early days, and I really struggled to hold runners and really make the most of these momentum moves. So what I would say is that if you want to do that, then set yourself a really, really strict set of rules. And just, I'm old school, guys, right? I've still got like folders with like strategy run-throughs in them, right? And best examples, best practices, right? Reminders, visuals of what those trades look like, because I can just stick that in front of me and go, do you know what I'm doing? Rushing into this freaking trade here, and this is a stupid idea, right? I don't have my entire checklist. Make yourself a checklist, right? You really need to sit down there and have that discipline, and don't really step too far away from that as well. And we've got some really, really great news, all right, which is that the giveaway winners are in. And the giveaway winners each get a 5K funded account, all right? So you get your 5K challenge account. And should we announce them? Hopefully we've still got everybody here, all right? So we've got Vanatora, Vanatora. Just give us a little message in the chat if you're here. You've got yourself a 5K giveaway. All right, so that gives you a $5,000 challenge account. Get yourself on the ladder and start putting some wins on the board. And then we've got Maureen. Congratulations, Maureen. You have been an absolute stalwart in the chat today. Great questions, great engagement. Like we said, the giveaway at the end is for how active you are, but also what I love about this is no one's just been an idiot, just sat there just completely spamming the chat, which has been wonderful to see, right? People, you've been sharing ideas, talking, and I think ultimately one of the things we really pride ourselves on at HyroTrader, and one of the really, really big attractions for me coming here wasn't just the fact that, we're the industry leaders in terms of the technology, we're the industry leaders in terms of making a platform by traders for traders, the first to have direct integration with API, with exchanges for people like me, which is really, really crucial if you're scalping, but crucial overall. But it's the community, right? It's having this wonderful community of like-minded people who want to work together, earn together, and learn together, right? So lean on that community, ask really good questions. There's a lot of experienced people over at the Discord, and it's completely free, guys, all right? But congratulations, Maureen and Vanatora as well. Congratulations. Do just give us a shout if you're still here in the chat. See you there, Maureen. Well done. Just a reminder for everyone that's won, please create a ticket on the Discord, and you can just pop that in there, put your username forward, and then we will get that squared away for you. And we have one more at the end as well. I believe it's Elias Thomas, or Elias Thomas. Apologies if my British accent has completely murdered that beautiful name. But that's where we are, guys. So Vanatora, Maureen, and Elias Thomas. Guys, if you are with us, just pop a little something in the chat for us. There we go, Elias Thomas. There we go. I've murdered it, haven't I, Elias? I really apologize. I can tell by the massive LOL across the screen. Awesome. And that's brilliant, Maureen. That's exactly, one of the real missions that we set out to do here is to just try and create a friendly, true live environment where we showcase what it is to trade every day. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to be with us like 8-9 hours a day when we're at the charts, but we're going to set up the setups that we're looking at. We're going to show you the growth of the funded account as we start to work through them. And this is all about getting people good, safe exposure. What I would say is don't rush into it. Just kind of look to yourself and say, okay, look, take your time, put things forward, right? Make sure you're comfortable with your strategy and the way you're going to play it, and just take it little bits at a time, all right? Even on a 5K funded account, if you get that over the line and you can make a couple of % on that, even like Bass said, in the real world, we aim for a few percent a month is a really good turnover. You're basically looking to double inflation if you can, really, at any major fund. So it's you don't have to be treating this with a really, really big gambling experience. If you can do it on a 5K account, you can do it on a 5 million account, right? So grow and scale with us, and ultimately lean on the resources that we're hoping to provide here as well. Post the YouTube post on the chat and got banned. Sorry to hear that, Fred. Yeah, the bots will get you at the moment. Unfortunately, it's the world we live in, isn't it, as well? But if there's any issues at all, my friend, you just ping us on there and we'll absolutely get you unblocked. It's just to hopefully, save people from the risk of getting scammed, so to improve everybody's user experience as well. Jardini as well, thank you for all the comments. You must have come really, really close to getting one of those. So hopefully we can get you back on the next show. I think we're live again next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, Bast.
Of course.
On some positions. It'll give me a little bit, time to kind of get my feet under the table a little bit more as well, and really think about what it is that we can share with you guys that will ultimately be to your benefit. But please also do give us some feedback. What have you liked about the show today? What would you like to see more of? We're going to have to cap the giveaways, I'm afraid. So if somebody comes on and says, I want 100 giveaways, then I admire your gumption, right? But we will still be doing giveaways. We'll still be doing the wheel through the sessions as well. We want to make it fun. We want to make it interactive. And if you've got questions about any of the shows, even if you're watching this back on recording, pop in the Discord, ask us, right? We will absolutely be in there. And we've just reached a little milestone as well. We've had over 100 comments or 100 messages, unique messages today in the chat. So a really, really, really big shout out to everyone. Huge congratulations to all of our contest winners as well. And for everybody that had a little bit of fun, a big shout out as well to Peter, the wheel master that he is. And yeah, guys, keep around the Discord. We're going to be updating you on the positions we're looking at. Looks like we might be starting to climb back inside some ranges. We're seeing that strength come into hype now as well. Equities are just starting to pull over. ES, which is the S&P 500, has just turned neutral for the day. So maybe we see some strength in there. So let's take a look and see what we go to do. And just for the questions as well, I'll pass this one on to Bast, but forward testing is when you take this into a real live trading environment, right? So that then what you get is you get the pressure and that real world feel with it. Back testing, I'd always recommend using, TradingView on replay, and then go back and just simulate that real environment for yourself, all right? But ultimately, you want to really, really, really be pushing to a live trading experience as well, just so that you learn how to kind of deal with the pressures. And don't forget to stop into the Discord, speak to our in-house psychologist as well, who's a really, really top guy, Lucas. So that's it from me, guys. Really, really, really thankful to be here with you all. My good friend Bast, wonderful trader, wonderful human being, the amazing crew who have been so warm and welcoming to me here at HyroTrader. So hopefully we can keep this going, and let's see how we get on this journey towards 1 million together. Cheers, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, BC. See you guys next week. Thank you very much for attention. And very nice to see you guys on the chats being active. So see you guys on the next streams. Make sure to tune in. And that's it. See you guys on the Discord. And see you, brother.